So it's been about 6 years since the fabled City versus Country Origin match was finished. They wrapped it up, deemed it wasn't necessary, and got rid of it. But what if we brought it back? So when I was growing up, I was sort of familiar with the old City versus Country game. Basically, it's players who were from Sydney played against a team full of people from everywhere else from New South Wales, usually in some rural place like Mudgee, Taree, you know, those types of places where they kind of do games now, and basically saw, you know, which area was the best in New South Wales. And it pretty much up till like the 2000s basically just got used as sort of a trial for the New South Wales Origin team for State of Origin. And I'll tell you what, I miss it. Granted, it is sort of somewhat back, but it is in the like New South Wales Cup and knock-on effect leagues, so it just doesn't really hit the same, unfortunately. So I was going into this as thinking, what if the NRL announced 2024 we're bringing it back? What would the teams look like? So going through the list is pretty much sort of simple. It's you pretty much have just got to find every single player who is eligible for the New South Wales State of Origin team and go through whether they play their junior rugby league in Sydney or not Sydney. It's pretty simple nonetheless. Though there has been a bit in history, a bit of questionable things attaining to the Central Coast. There have been cases where there have been some players who have played for the Central Coast, who played in the Central Coast but played for country, but there are also players who've played their junior rugby league in the Central Coast and played for City. So, bit of contention here, but pretty much what is, as of 2023, the clubs that are in the country rugby league or whatever they call the Sydney domestic cups or whatever. Obviously not shocking in terms of obviously not shocking in terms of team lists. City has a lot more players. Like, I don't think that's really that shocking, but you know, it's just one of those things fly. But both sides actually have a very solid team in terms of 13, so pretty much built 17. If you complain about the interchanges, like, oh, you're not meant to have 2 forwards, or you know, you're meant to have 2, but I don't care. The off season's over. We've got to try to make videos as much as we can up until like February, where everyone releases every video every 30 minutes. So without further ado, here is what I've tried to build in terms of a 17 for both City and Country. For City, starting at fullback, James Tedesco. There is a bunch of other players who probably could have fitted in this role, but I mean, like, it's James Tedesco. He's going to get selected. He gets selected for Australia, he gets selected for New South Wales. He sure as hell will be selected for City. Now we go into the wingers, and we're going to have Josh Addo-Carr on one wing and Alex Johnston on the other. I mean, it's like, you know, 2 of the best wingers in the comp. Not very hard to decide why. Centres, we're going to go with Tom Trbojevic and Stephen Crichton. Again, it's like, yes, Tom Trbojevic in centres a bit, but he has played it for New South Wales, so it's not too shocking. 5'8" and halfback pairing is not going to be shocking. I've gone with Jerome Luai and Nathan Cleary. I mean, it makes sense. It is pretty much the New South Wales half pairing, so not really shocking at all. Forward pack definitely gets really interesting. I've gone with our props being Keone Koloamatangi and Regan Campbell-Gillard. Very contentious probably in terms of starting them, but I think they go alright, with the hooker being Apisai Coruscant. I think that's a fair estimation. Second row, we're going to go with Haumole Olakau'atu and Cameron Murray. I think they're 2 very solid. It's the second rowers and the props which are going to be probably the more contentious in terms of selections or whatever. And finally, at lock, we have Jake Trbojevic with a bench that consists of Campbell Graham, Joseph Suali'i, Junior Paulo, and Josh Schuster. Obviously, people are going to say you probably should have Junior Paulo starting and probably have Koloamatangi off the bench, but that's what I probably have as a 17 for City. And now we move on to Country. We're starting at fullback, which I've had to change initially, but we're going to have Dylan Edwards. I mean, he's probably the most consistent fullback in the NRL for the last couple of years. It just makes sense. Wingers, we're going to go with Ruben Garrick and Nick Cotric. Now, Nick Cotric, people are going to be saying, like, wait, what? But he's actually, like, one of the only ones who are actually, like, positional wingers who actually is eligible for country, so it's a bit interesting. So if you probably might put someone like, I know, like a Scott Drinkwater in at wing, it'd be a bit interesting, but yeah, that's what we've gone with there. Going into the centres, you've got Latrell Mitchell and Bradman Best. I mean, you have Bradman Best, who was arguably the hot take, probably had the best year for a centre. And of course, you've got Latrell Mitchell, who, yes, is playing centre, not fullback, but I just think he does really well in centre. I think he's really good at it. South Sydney, if you're listening, play Latrell Mitchell at centre. Then we go to the halves pairing. I've gone with Cody Walker as 5'8" and Nico Hines at halfback. I think they're fairly solid. Obviously, they're a bit of a different mesh, so it would be an interesting test to see, but I think they go pretty well. Now we go to the forwards, and we're going with our props. We're going to go with Payne Haas and Jacob Saifiti. You're going to start seeing a little bit of bias coming through here with some of the selections, but yeah, I mean, Payne Haas, absolute workhorse. Woodbury boy, local. Jacob Saifiti's a Newcastle, so we're going to get a few Newcastle players in here. We're going to shove them in as much as we can. And we're going with our hooker being Damien Cook. I mean, you think of hooker in the NRL, you think Damien Cook. Now we go to the second row, and we're going to go with Tyson Frizzell and Liam Martin. That's just a naughty sort of second row pairing, if you say so myself. And at lock, not going to be a shock, Isaiah Yeo. And with the interchange, which is probably going to be the most contentious one, we've got Scott Drinkwater, Reece Robson, Jack DeBellin, and Daniel Saifiti. It's probably going to be the interchanges that are going to be the only thing that piss people off, but that's fine. So that's if they did it in 2024, this is what our teams would be. What do you guys think? Should they bring City v Country back? And if you want, I'll leave a link to the notes that I put down. Basically, it's a list of all the players eligible for City against all the players eligible for Country, so you can make your own teams whatsoever. So I think it's a very interesting concept. I don't say it probably should come back, I just think it's an interesting sort of look into it. So anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you later.